Hello, it's me, Eli, with another Ask an Artist video. Today's question is, what's it like being a black artist? People are taking some of my comments from previous videos and trying to find the most difficult questions to ask me to follow up. But I guess that's kind of the nature of it. With these videos, my goal is to be transparent, open, and honest about all things, even though I do feel like we live in a time right now where sometimes that's punished. But, yeah, let me try to navigate that. Subjects of race are very personal. Like, just because I have some experiences does not mean you can just go up to any black artist and be like, oh, I know what it's about. I watched a video on YouTube. Eli kind of gave me the lowdown. That would be rude, if nothing else. So I'll just, I guess, go through my experiences. But just know they are my experiences. I follow all types of creators, and although I don't follow them because of their race, they are of different races, coincidentally. Who would have guessed? So, yeah, I'd say overall positive. But it wasn't always that way. I was born in Oakland, California. Not the best neighborhood, but I was always an artist. I was always drawing things. My mom did her best to keep me educated. So my earliest memories of me growing up being kind of nerdy and being in predominantly black neighborhoods, I was a bit of an outcast. People said I was trying too hard to talk white. I didn't really know what that meant. I was just kind of saying words the way I understood them. I was just learning words. Words were already tricky, so I didn't know you were getting, docked points for how to pronunciate. So I didn't really feel accepted. That's just kids being terrible. Like, that's not really community there. I moved away from Oakland when I was about 6. Ended up finding myself in Vallejo, where we moved around a little bit, but always within Vallejo. So I went from predominantly black peers, and then I ended up with a large Filipino population. Don't get me wrong, hip-hop was still very popular, and there was still some of that being represented there, but I still didn't quite fit in anywhere, so I still kind of stayed an outcast. All of a sudden, I ended up finding Toonami, which me and my little brother started watching Dragon Ball Z a lot, because it was cool. It was very interesting. I liked it. My brother liked things I liked. He started liking it. And then we kind of created this little fun thing. But I didn't really think anyone else was involved with it. My mom said, that's kids watch cartoons. Why are you guys watching it? She kind of discouraged it. She didn't really understand it. And I was like, oh, that's probably right. I probably shouldn't share this in the public, or else I'll be shunned or whatever consequence I thought was going to happen. So I still kept that on the low. But it did make it into my art. Finding anime, reading Shonen Jump, inspired me to start making my own comic books. I was still holding on to some of those prejudices or, defense mechanisms from Oakland. So whenever anyone would come to me, I would assume they're here to make fun of me or ridicule me for something. So my default was to just kind of shoo them away, which is rude in hindsight. It wasn't until later where I started meeting friends, but I still thought, for the most part, I'm alone. A small few people that like the things I like, and then everyone else is going to make fun of me for it. To the point, I remember there was one day I was drawing something, but someone came up to me and asked me about the thing I was drawing and said they liked it. And I immediately took that as an insult. They were clearly setting up for some sort of joke, some sort of punchline. So I was very rude to them, kind of shooed them away. It wasn't until years later I was talking to that person. And they were explaining like, oh yeah, when I first met you, you were kind of mean. I really liked anime, and I thought I finally found someone who liked it too. So I was trying to make a friend. You kind of just shooed me away. I had to apologize. But yeah, it's funny. It was me being so on guard that I probably separated myself or isolated myself even more from people that would have been good friends or even a good community. A couple years later, I get out of high school, start going to comic conventions and realizing, it's a little bit more popular. We went through Toonami years. We went through Adult Swim years. There was all types of community for me. And then I started feeling accepted. I started accepting others and kind of stopped being an a-hole about it. Kind of exploring these stories and the lessons we all took from them and our different angles on these narratives from, nerd stuff. I say all this mostly in regard to anime, mostly because that is a large inspiration for my art style. Got a little bit older, now I'm in my 30s and have had, some black content creators, people with scripts coming up to me because they like my art and they want me to, make content, make comic books of black people doing stuff, which is cool. Just recently did a comic called Love Conquers All. It's about this black guy named Kennedy and him kind of trying to deal with mental health. So it's a talk piece trying to educate people and remove some of the stigma around that topic. And I find that very inspiring and really cool. But that's kind of the arc. It was, I'm not black enough. Okay, so I should try to avoid black people. Then I'm doing a really good job avoiding black people. And then, you know what? Maybe I'm the asshole. And then, it turns out I was the asshole. Everything's all right. There's a place for everyone, all types of interests and hobbies. And you don't need to be so defensive about it. So I guess that's ultimately kind of where I land. Right now, I'm still very excited. It's not a core part of my art. All my art is mostly about my own personal experiences. I am black, so that slides in there sometimes. I'm also tall. I'm also nerdy. So those are also elements that you'll find in some of my storytelling. But I will say, of the elements of myself, the black part is something that I had to learn to accept and embrace. And I think that is a good lesson. You shouldn't let people tell you what your blackness is, or your whatever culture you are, whatever race you are. You define it. You get to decide on who you are and how you fit within that space. There are great things about your culture and your upbringing, and there are probably some terrible things about your culture and your upbringing. If you go back far enough, or, sometimes you don't even need to go back that far, but you should educate yourself on it and try to move forward with that knowledge. All right, now I'm preaching too much. So that's me. That's me, Eli, the tall, nerdy black guy. Thanks for watching. If you have any other questions for me to answer in another video, please leave them in the comments, and I will see you next time.